Okay, 2 years ago I did a video contrasting Avalon Hill's Gunslinger game with my own spaghetti western game and Worthington's game Cowboys, The Way of the Gun. Well, now we're going to look at Cowboys II, also done by Worthington, and they call it the Cowboys and Indians edition. Now, when I first saw the cover artwork for the game, I was a bit confused because I kept seeing different covers, and I was wondering if the artwork was in evolution. Once I purchased the game, I found out why. And that's because what I was seeing on the left was the outer sleeve of the box, and this is the box cover proper, featuring nice artwork from, I think this is from the 1880s at the turn of the century. I recognize the artist. They almost look like Frederick Remington prints, but I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check. Anyway, Worthington has always done excellent job on their artwork and their boxes, and Cowboys 2 is no different. They went all out on the artwork for the inside of the box cover too, which is kind of cool. We're going to look at the components, and I'll tell you a little bit about this fascinating game and why I ended up getting Cowboys 2 after having the first edition. One nice thing about this edition is that you get storage trays custom made for the components. So here's your cards, here's your cards to set up your characters, the stands for the counters, the little meeples, I guess you call them, to record damage, and you get a host of counters with baggies. Rules booklet, of course, and you get a scenario booklet. Now, when I'm learning a game, I always make copies, so if you see in the video some sections yellowed out and stuff, you don't need to be aghast in horror. I always work from copies. That's the way I learn games. You get 2 cards here, similar information on both sides, the turn record, the action track, the combat results from shots, and how you record damage where certain characters are hit. So it's all there in a nicely done package. And the rules, I think, are about, 12 pages. So we're not talking about a complex game. You can teach it in 10 minutes and set it up in 5. Now you get 6 mounted boards that are double-sided, and these can be flipped to make, a western town or whatever scenery you want. Very handy. So you've got a multitude of boards you can make. You can also, it's an open sandbox. You can make your own scenarios, and I think that's one of the reasons I really like it. Let's take a look at the scenarios, because I think you'll find them kind of fascinating. Now there's 21 scenarios in the game, and one of the things I liked about it was that they derived a lot of their scenarios from Hollywood motion pictures and also some historical scenarios too. So one I particularly like is the Battle of Adobe Walls, the second battle, which occurred in 1874. But they did derive a lot of their scenarios, like I said, from Hollywood movies. So for example, they've got Shootout at the OK Corral, which is, derived from the movie The Gunfight at the OK Corral. They've also got scenarios based on High Noon, starring Gary Cooper, pitting a marshal against 4 bad guys. The movie 3:10 to Yuma, which is remade with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Good movie. They've got a scenario based on that. And True Grit, scenario based on that. And of course the iconic The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And like I said, the game is an open sandbox. Any particular Western movie you like, you can make your own scenarios very, very easily. Setup time is very, very quick. Let's take a look at the counters. Now you get a whole mess of these cowboys and these little stands which you put on. They're 2-sided, so there's a character coming at you, and There he is going away. Movement is quite simple. You don't move diagonally. It's always space to space in the direction you're facing. Generally, these people have 4 movement points. And if you have any movement points left over after you move, you can turn. So, for example, this fella can go 1, 2, 3, and he's got 1 movement point left. He can turn. Very simple game and pretty straightforward. And if you have your own miniatures, you can use those too. You know, I've painted up some. I'm no great artist, but it can be used as a miniatures game too. The game is very flexible. Another reason why I like it. The combat procedure is, well, very straightforward. You count the distance, range in squares to the target. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares away. That gives you a range depending on the type of weapon you have. So 4 squares away, you'd have to get a dice roll between 8 and 12. Double-sided dice. And there are modifiers depending on your character. So it's extremely straightforward. Like I said, you can teach this game in 5 minutes, and you can play it multiplayer. You could have, I don't know, maybe 10 people playing this game, and the game would move along very, very quick. So it's an excellent multiplayer game. Let's take a look at some of the great player aids you've got in this game. Now, one of the reasons I decided to purchase Cowboys II was the player aids. In my opinion, they've been improved from the first game, Cowboys with a Gun. Now, this is a standalone game, so you do not need to own Cowboys, the first one, to play this one. This is a complete standalone game. And I love these player aids. They're really, really good. Each character has his own little and they're nice thick cardboard showing their characteristics. For example, up here is their health level. So you'll put this little meeple on here to indicate you're at full health. And as you get hit, this marker goes down. Of course, when you get 4 hits, the character is dead. To track ammunition, you put the little marker on here. If this particular character happens to have 2 guns, you mark them there, and he's got 6 rounds. Every time he fires a round, you just move this down. Put the marker in the middle. That shows that his gun is empty. The player aids are very useful in the game. And, well, for example, this fellow had 2 guns and they were here. That means that they're holstered. And if he had a rifle in his hands, put it there to show he's holding the rifle. And the pistols would be in his holster. Later on, if you wanted to get rid of the rifle, go to pistols, you take this off here and take them out of the holsters to show that he's ready to fire with both guns. And they've got a shotgun too here somewhere in the counter mix. So it's very, very easy to use, and the game moves very rapidly. You also get a whole host of cards. Depending on the scenario, you'll get more or less cards. You literally do what it says on the card. Very simple game. And like I said, it moves along. Example, you had this card and played it. So it tells you when you can play it. Play during your turn. Character receives 2 extra actions this turn. I said most characters get about 4 actions when they're at full health. And these cards will give you extra actions. Speed load. 1 pistol is automatically loaded. Discard this card after play. So there's a whole host of cards here. Similar effects. There's also a reaction shot where you actually fire during your opponent's turn. If he moves in on you, you can pull that card on him and shoot back. Now, another reason I purchased the game was the inclusion of Native Americans. In my last video, I mentioned that I'm working on a tactical game called Soldier and Brave, having to do with Indians and U.S. cavalry. And I was curious to see how they handled the Indians. And in this man-to-man level game, the Indians have something that's kind of cool. They've got hidden movement. So the Indians are on the board here with these little question mark counters, because you, as the opposing side, don't know if there's a real Indian behind there. If you flip out, that's a real Indian. Another real one. Flip, and that's just a dummy. So the Indians can move around. They've got this stealth factor, and it's a chit pull system. So when their chit is pulled, all the Indians can move. When your particular chit is pulled, only your character can move. So each character in the game has a chit associated with that character. You'll put these chits for all the characters that are in the scenario into an opaque container or bag. You'll flip them up, draw one, and that's whose turn it is. So the game is extremely interactive, especially when you're playing with 4 or 5 players. This game is a lot of fun, and you can do a scenario in 20 minutes, a half hour. So you get a lot of bang for your buck in this package. It's also a good introductory game. I played this with my girlfriend and one of her friends, and we had a wild time, especially when it's on the man-to-man level. It's something you can identify with. And her girlfriend actually ended up killing the two of us, so her girlfriend loved the game. And it is just a lot of fun to play. That's all I can say. Another reason I bought it was my own spaghetti western game is really a miniatures game. And miniatures, of course, as most of you know, you have to set up the town and scenery and stuff like that. What I wanted was a board game on the Old West where I could set it up in minutes and play with people who are not familiar with miniatures. So I'm very glad of this purchase. For those of you who don't have Cowboys, you might want to pick up Cowboys II. It's a wonderful and, in my opinion, improved edition. It plays very much like the first game. There are little wee rules tweaks, but I think this is a fine edition of the game. So that's it for Cowboys II. Still in print as far as I know. I just got my copy last week, and it's from Worthington Games. And thank you for watching.